Okay, I'm going to call the regular town commission meeting for January 27th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Would you stand for the pledge, please? Everybody's already standing.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Mayor Burrill?
Here.
Vice Mayor Mayfield?
Here.
Commissioner Fender?
Here.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. There's no proclamations or presentations that I see, so we'll go right by that. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing no comment there. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we call the roll.
Vice Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll go right to action items, approval of consent agenda.
Move
Can
to
I-
approve as
any-
presented?
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none?
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we're going right to the public hearing, ordinance of second reading. That would be our town attorney.
It's an ordinance of the Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 82 zoning, Article 4 districts and district regulations, Division 2 residential district, Subdivision 2 residential district R1 by creating Section 82-243.1 applications for certified recovery residences, establishing procedures for the review, approval, and enforcement of reasonable accommodation requests for certified recovery residences, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Okay, now it's Bonnie Landry's turn.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Bonnie Landry, and I'm presenting this item. As a reminder, this is a result of the 2025 Florida legislature, which requires local governments to establish procedures for the review and approval of certified recovery residences. You'll also remember you have to be consistent with the Fair Housing Act and Americans with Disability Act. It also has a provision for written processes. So what we're going to focus on tonight are just the changes between your first reading and your second reading. There was some discussion at the first meeting, and we were able to get you some information on some of your questions you had. We did look at the Justice Department guidance, Elizabeth and myself, and we still believe you should not have a fee included in this process because of its application for trying to accommodate disabilities. Things that we added, the applicant needs to demonstrate that there is a therapeutic necessity for this request and that what they're requesting is the minimum necessary for that accommodation. They need to submit a site plan which shows your existing and proposed structures. I think the original was just the existing. So this is any new proposed structures. We're also asking that the applicants prepare a floor plan with dimensions and the number of residents that they plan to accommodate. We added some additional accreditation. There's a statutory requirement, but we also added additional accreditation requirements. And also on the application, the applicant has to certify and attest that no residents will be using drugs actively, and if they are, they'll be removed immediately. Next slide. Also, we updated the evaluation criteria, again, the therapeutic necessity, They need to demonstrate with their site plan that it will function as a single-family residence. And there is an explicit statement in there that says a request for density would constitute a fundamental alteration, so they will not be granted that if that's one of their requests. We also added some procedural notification requirements. The applicant needs to sign a rental permit to ensure the residents are long-term and they comply with your short-term residency or short-term residence rules. And they're required to notify the town within 3 days if they happen to have a lapse or suspension of their certification. It's rather short. I just kind of stuck with the things that have changed. I'm available for questions.
Bonnie, do you want to address the one change from the version they have?
Say that again?
Do you want to address the one change from the version they have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes. The version that they have did not have the parking. Okay. So what you have before you, I had looked at some of the other case laws, and I thought, well, maybe we could have some parking requirements, but legal counsel, and they were very right. There's a provision in the code for all parking of all residents, so we can't be more restrictive for the recovery residences we are for other residences. So as it is today, you can park your car, and it doesn't have to be covered or hidden. You can park it in the driveway. The only provision is you can't have it on the street between a certain hour in the middle of the night.
2 and 6.
2 and 6. So that was as far as we could go with the parking, and so I did take that out at advice of counsel. So that's the one change. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So that would be on the packet that was on your dais today, page 6 of 8. Number K that's highlighted says applicant agrees that residents shall not store vehicles at the property. That would be stricken.
And so this is the second reading, so
Would be, excuse me, that would be stricken?
6 and 8.
Or struck?
6 of 8. Yes.
Mr. Bender,
You just added it. Somebody just added it.
It was added and then we're taking it back.
I added it by mistake, and Elizabeth, she showed me the code. It really shouldn't be in there, so I apologize. But that's why we have a team.
Commissioner Fender.
So thanks for this, Bonnie. It looks like you've added a significant more amount of teeth into this bill than we had before. I'm calling it a bill, I don't know what it is, ordinance. One thing that I notice is that we've got the addition or the inclusion of adherence to long-term rental properties. So I'm interested in that because I think it would be onerous for a recovery house to meet that requirement, or if they were, I'm trying to find a way for them not to violate it, right? Because they would have to stay either 6 months or longer.
180 days, yeah.
180 days. If they didn't stay that long, what's the ramification of that?
What's the recourse?
I mean, they would say, yes, I'm absolutely here for 6 months, and then all of a sudden, within 3 months, they're still there, but they're not, right? I mean,
And it may be an enforcement issue as well, because how do you track the people who are in and out? But that's our best effort to try to meet you to what you'd like to see. And legal did agree that, there was case law that said that we could have that provision in there because you already have it in your code,
okay,
and it would be
all right.
allowable.
Yeah, I like it.
That's probably the biggest change, because I know y'all talked about that.
Mr. Tidigas.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Disappointed because the message from this commission at the last meeting was that, number one, we intended to comply with the law, and number two, we didn't intend to water down the stringent standards that the town of Sewell's Point has. So I have a couple questions, and then I have some comments. Question number one is, what's the effect of Justice Department guidance regarding the fee? It's guidance, it's not a law. Does it preclude us from requesting a fee?
As we discussed before, it's my interpretation of all of the guidance and cases regarding ADA and fair housing, that it is supposed to be an opportunity for people with disabilities to be accommodated for their disability so that they can be on the same playing field as those without disability, and that to put a fee to that is an impediment to, and it is discriminatory toward their disability. So it is recommended by the Justice Department, and I couldn't find a case directly on point, but it's my recommendation that you not have a fee.
So when, first of all, let's start off with the fact that certified recovery residents, as defined in Florida Statute 397-487, are businesses. They may be a for-profit business, they may be a nonprofit business. The state of Florida charges hospitals a fee for registering with the Department of ACA. Rehabilitation hospitals, which deal with disabled individuals. The applicants, in the case of, in our town, are businesses. They're not individuals that are coming and saying, I want to establish a congregate living facility here in town. So Justice Department guidance may be there, but I don't see where that stops us from putting it into our code. And I have some suggested changes I'm going to pass out. Thank you. Will you pass this here? I think there should be 8. I also saw where Mr. Daniels, and I appreciate the fact that you printed out the codes. Could you pass this over to Mr. Landry? Anyway, and there's a copy here too. Because this is a complex issue, a very complex issue, I took the liberty of going through our codes, and particularly 14-163, 14-164, and 14-165. And so I'm suggesting some changes to those codes, okay? The premises are that we intend to comply with the law. We don't intend to lower our standards. Certified recovery residences are defined as a business. And if the occupancy increases beyond what is currently permitted and the premises on a septic system, the capacity of the system should be increased. I didn't quite know where to fit that into our ordinances, but let's throw that out as a side. We requested a application fee at the last meeting. Obviously, it was deleted for the reasons stated. I think it should be reinserted. On page 4, paragraph 11 of the ordinance, and I'm going off of the, I apologize. Yeah, page 4, paragraph 11, the word notarized should be inserted before certification. Page 5, paragraph 6B refers to a single-family dwelling. We don't have a definition of a single-family dwelling in our code. I don't think so.
Okay.
I stand corrected. Okay. If you go to page 14-164, I'm suggesting that we, I think, add to, I gave my copy away. We'll share. I'll have to share with you, okay. I'm suggesting that we add a section that says, exceptions to this section, since this deals with businesses, may be made to a person to comply with the definition of disabled as reflected in recovery from substance abuse, but all other provisions of 14-164 must be met. 4-165, A1B should be amended to include that if the dwelling is to be occupied by 7 or more disabled individuals recovering from substance abuse, the dwelling must be sprinkled according to Florida Building Code. And the reason for that is that the percentage of smokers in the United States is between 12 and 14%. When you look at people recovering from substance abuse, it jumps up to between 70 and 90%. And so I think there's and our code refers to potential public health or public safety problems. And there's documentation that I had provided earlier, I'd send it to you, Elizabeth, about the whole issue of smoking and the higher incidence with this population. 14-165 should be amended to read in A12, and or 2 should be added, that certified recovery residences is defined in section 14-165, according to Florida statutes 397, 487 are exempted from the provision in sections 14-165, A1A. And that provision, and bear with me while I'm flipping paper, basically says that it's unlawful leases and it deals with occupancy limits. And this basically says that there can be an exception to that occupancy limit. I'm also suggesting that, well, if I take you to what I passed out on page 7, on that we amend this paragraph to read, so 14-165 amended to read in A1A2, I'm sorry, 1465D should be amended to include, in the case of certified recovery centers, the responsible party shall file with the town a list of all occupants, and anytime there is an addition or deletion to that list of authorized persons permitted to occupy the building. I'm sorry, I forgot to highlight and read the authorized person. So the bottom line is, we do have a right to ask for a list of people that are going to be here, and we do have a right to ask for, if there is any change to that list, that the town be notified. Currently, under our law, if you are renting or leasing a house to a party, it has to be for more than 6 months. We have to file with the town who the occupants are, adults, children, and their ages. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have the same provision for this type of an enterprise. And the final change that I'm suggesting, if you turn to page 8 on what I passed out, which is 14-165B, add a section A to paragraph G. The authorized agent of a certified recovery residence must annually file a report on the number of residents served, the turnover, and the average length of stay. The chief of police will append to the report any incidents reported to the police from the facility or facility residents. Those are the suggestions that I'm making to the changes to what is presented in front of us this evening.
Are there any problems with those changes?
Well, I'd like to make some clarifications for everybody to make sure that it's clear what we're doing. So, as of the last time we spoke about this, you all were concerned about the short-term rental requirements that you have in the town and wanting to make sure that those could stay in place if possible. We did some research and we found that there have been cases that have upheld in other areas where that have a short-term restriction for rentals that could be upheld because that would be a fundamental change to the character of the community. And so we have put that in, that those requirements would have to be met. So I think that some of the changes that Commissioner Titikus has made would put in your code under those rental requirements that that certified recovery residences are exempt, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to say that they have to comply with those. So that is one point. And some of the other suggested changes are particular additional requirements specific for certified recovery residences. And while I understand that a certified recovery residence operation is a business, what the federal law and the cases have all said is that the people living there are using the residence as their home, and they need to be treated the same as anybody else who is renting a home or a place to live in your community. So saying that one person up to 7 people can rent a house, but if they are renting a house because they're disabled, they have to have sprinkler requirements or other requirements. That is, the courts find that to be discriminatory conduct or discriminatory regulations, and those kind of regulations are not upheld. So I would recommend against additional restrictions based on this type of use, and focus on leaving your regulations the same as they are, as we have tried to do. The goal here is that the legislature has said that if you don't have a process where someone with this specific type of disability could come to you and say, I would like to have a residence in your community, I need some relief from these specific regulations that they have to identify, and they have to say, here's the reason why I need this relief. There is a therapeutic reason. It is related to my disability. This is the minimum that would allow me to live here as a resident. Will you please consider my request to accommodate my disability? Then you look at those things as we've set out in this proposed ordinance, that you are providing that accommodation. It's not amending your rules so that they're not enforceable against these residents or anybody else. It's taking them on a case-by-case basis to see if that accommodation in that instance is reasonable.
Mr. Kurzman.
Yeah, if there's anything that's in here that we could get to stick, that we can add, this to me is no different than you see all the dogs in supermarkets wearing something that says service dog. When you see the dog jumping on people and sniffing everything in sight, it's taking advantage of something, no matter how you want to look at it. It should be illegal, but unfortunately a dog that has something that says service dog on it is covered by the American Disabilities Act, and we're not allowed to ask them, is that really a service dog, when you know darn well it's not. And that's kind of where I just have such an issue with this, and I understand it's the law now, but if there's anything, any extra teeth we could put into this, and I appreciate the work Commissioner Titikus has done on this, it means a lot, and just even if we get a couple of things out of this, and if let's say we change our general ordinance that says if you have X amount of people, you could be grandfathered in right now, but any additional homes maybe that go in that require a sprinkler system, I don't know if there's a certain size home that do require sprinkler systems in our...
Single-family homes are exempt from sprinkler requirements.
No matter what the size.
I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Okay.
Okay, gotta go.
I'm sorry, I'll wait my turn.
Mr. Fender.
Yeah, I also like the effort in putting some teeth into this. It seems like we've all done a little of that. I'm curious about the last one, actually, the G, authorized agent of certified recovery must submit a report. That's good. But I don't know whether it's onerous or not onerous, but let's say that they don't, or, you know, we get the report. What is the what is the downside of that? They can submit the report, seems like, paper tiger. Is there anything, any provision that says we act upon the report that they provide? I assume the report should then say they complied with the 6-month rule and all the rules therefore, which is why we're asking for the report, right? I mean,
Yes.
what is your,
Yes.
the second part of the paragraph is missing. If they don't comply, then what? You know, maybe
Well-
there's a provision somewhere else that says then what. I just don't know what it is.
No, I didn't put it then what in
Okay.
there. But, I mean, if the requirement is that there be a 6-month residency, and the average length of stays for certified recovery residences are less than 6 months. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. This is a business. You know, if somebody's insurance is for 3 months, they're there for 3 months.
Yeah.
And if you go and you read Florida statute that talks about certified recovery centers, it's, I think it's 397.
Well, so you
What?
bring up a good point.
It talks about the fact that if somebody is asked to leave, they have to leave, and if they come back on the property, they're considered to be trespassing. So, I mean, this is a,
Well, that's why I'm asking about the then what. I mean, they're
The-
only
the
funded
then-
for 3 months, and we've got them for 6, so they didn't comply, then what?
so then we don't approve the renewal of their permit to be here.
Okay, so is that a paragraph where they require a permit on a regular basis? That's probably true, and I just don't recognize it, but,
Well,
so do
what,
we have that right to deny their permit?
today in our ordinance, if somebody submits a lease for less than a year's period of time, it won't be approved for a rental. They can't rent the property.
Does that happen today? Do we do that? Is that a process that we follow? Okay.
Yes.
Matt,
No, Mrs. Daniels
sorry.
has been patiently waiting.
No problem. A couple things I just wanted to go through. On the certifications that are on page 3. Was it 3 or 4? Hang on a second. Page 4, I apologize, for the ordinance. I'm assuming those would be notarized as a certification, so there's some teeth for perjury.
Certifications typically are notarized.
Okay. And then just the other, with all the suggestions out of our ordinance 14 under 165, 4, and 3, those are all part of our short-term rental ordinance. So I think we really have to stay away from tweaking those because that might invalidate our ability to have that grandfathered ordinance in. But I would much rather see if it was legal to place it into the new ordinance versus tweaking the old ordinance that we have for our short-term rentals. And that's all I wanted to put out.
Okay.
So thank you, and that's really what I was trying to get at too, is that some of these changes that are proposed are to build in exemptions to your short-term rental requirements for certified recovery residences, and the point was to not have an exemption, but if they requested an accommodation from that, we could point back to the reasonable accommodation portion that we've written and say that that's a fundamental alteration, and we would not grant that as an accommodation. And you are required to comply fully with the short-term rental requirements of the town.
Okay, Mr. Titigus.
Couple things. One, regarding sprinkler systems. Let's just start there and let me work backwards. Rural lifestyle communities, 3 of which have been approved in Martin County. And you're absolutely right. The Florida Building Code says if you have a commercial building over 5,000 square feet, you got to sprinkle it. And no ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, rural lifestyle communities in Martin County are required to have sprinkler systems. They're large houses, generally unoccupied, far from the firehouses, and so the county has required that in order to approve them in the county. The other thing is, Elizabeth, you characterized if somebody comes to the town and they submit an application, somebody will come to the town, but they're representing themselves as a business and not as a disabled individual. They are a business that serves disabled people. And so I think the characterization is a little bit misleading because we're not dealing with people, we're dealing with a business entity. And then regarding the whole smoking issue, you could say it's discriminatory, and it is discriminatory, absolutely. But it's based and grounded in fact that this is a higher risk endeavor, that this population is a higher risk of smoking and potential fire hazard.
Okay. Vice Mayor Mayfield.
Yes. So I do find this topic slightly confusing, I'm not going to lie, all of it. But I just wanted to confirm, because, and Commissioner Titigus, you were just talking about this, the business versus the residence, because we have single-family residences here. So Commissioner Titigus, you're saying they're coming as a business, they're coming in as a business, and then that automatically kind of shifts my mind how I'm thinking. But our lawyer is telling us, and our planner, that this is all on the premise of the fact that this is how they're treated for their residents. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we're not supposed to be looking at it so much as the business eye, as more like people living in a home?
Correct.
Okay. And so that's where it keeps getting confused, because clearly running a business of certified recovery residents in Sewell's Point, nobody wants that. But if we are required to treat them as living there, then this makes more sense to me. So I appreciate that clarification, and good job explaining it all. You did a good job, because it is confusing. I felt this from the get-go. And also, good job on the short-term rental thing, because that, I think, is very important. And I think it solves a lot of the problems, to your point. If most of the recovery residences are less than 6 months, the fact that, by what I'm hearing, it is quite likely they would not be able to get the, what's the word you're using, what are they looking for?
The accommodation.
The accommodation from our short-term dwelling, then they would be locked into 6 months. So maybe that'll make it more unlikely to happen. So good job finding that and doing that. I understand your changes. I'm fine with putting notarized in front of certification. That makes no difference to me. That makes sense. The application fee, I understand why you want it, but it is almost, on the advice of my lawyer, and the fact that the whole thing, that this whole premise is not, by the law, not to make a hardship. It's like kind of doing the opposite of what this whole premise is, if we're following the law, which I think in this case we should definitely do. And then the changes, I understand why you're doing them too, but it also complicates things. It seems like a lot of, we'd have to change all our ordinances, which is extra money, extra time, extra government. And our lawyer had kind of said that it might mess up our short-term rental rules already and give them exemptions and make things harder for them, when the whole point of this is to not make things harder for them. So I actually think it looks pretty good. I'm all for adding the certified in front of notification, but other than that, I think it looks good, and I think you guys did a good job.
Before, Frank, let me just, I need to ask a question about the state regulations on business out of private homes. I believe they passed a law that said that if you wanted to run a business out of your home, you can.
They did, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so again, we're arguing about that, but yet our residents can do that. They can have a business out of their home. How do you fight and let the recovery not be there as a business, and yet you let the residents have businesses? How do you fight that?
Well, and most of the time, the certified recovery residents, while there is an operation to providing services and things, most of those services are not provided on site. It is not a treatment facility. It is intended to be a place where people can live together who have a similar history or background or story, and they're supporting each other as a community toward their mutual goal of recovery. And it really is intended to just be a place where like-minded people live together, essentially.
Okay, but we're...
And the business
But we're
is,
declaring it a business,
well,
basically, aren't we? We're saying it's a
no.
business.
It's, I mean, it is a business, but the purpose of the home is to be a rented residence, that you're not running your business
No, I understand
from
that.
the home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, well...
It's just the
they
same
are
as if
running
you're,
the business from the home
they're-
because they're collecting money from them.
they're running the business in the home is part of the business. Just like if your business is rental properties. It's a rental property where people are living. It's not that you're running your printing business from the home.
But you can.
But yes, you can.
Under today's rules...
That is also
State
true.
rules, you can.
Yes.
You can put a body shop,
And you can also rent your home.
but you can put a body shop here. And nobody can complain and nobody can say anything, basically. But, so we do have businesses here.
Yes.
So,
But not body shops.
Not body
no
shops.
body shop. Okay, Mr. Fender, you wanted to speak?
So, yeah, two quick questions. First off, I like the approach, and I have two questions. One is for Commissioner Titikus, because I think I understand your approach and what you're doing, and I applaud it, but I'm trying to understand why you put the exemptions in. I just didn't understand why the exemptions are included,
Well,
what the mindset was.
okay. So first of all, the only exemption is must comply with 14-164, and I'm saying an exception to this section 7A1,
But why?
because section 7A1 basically says the rental of this dwelling is being made only to one family. And it is being made to more than one family.
But why give them the exemption?
If you go back to the definition of certified recovery residences, okay.
No, I understand.
Which
My-
is
But
in-
my point is, our goal here is not to modify our ordinance so that we can then claim in court that this changes the structure of our community, and thereby making any change to our existing ordinance would then imply, well, you are making changes to the structure of your community. We want to say, we don't think we have to, right? We're grandfathered or whatnot, but as soon as we make that change, we violate that and we lose that case. Does that make sense? I mean, am I making clear what?
I understand where you're coming from, but I'll go back to Senate Bill 940, which basically said we needed to come up with a process we needed to come up with, we needed to come up with something to be able to process, and the wording in that bill says, and approve these centers. And so if we have an ordinance that says basically you rent a house that can only go to a single family, we're not setting up a process to approve them. They're dead in the water before they even walk in the front door. And trust me, I'm okay with that. But I think that, in a good faith effort to say, look, we're looking at this, we have a set of standards. We want to maintain those set of standards. So we're opening that door part way, and saying there's an exception to a single family. You can have unrelated individuals occupying a house. And those unrelated individuals, A, have to fit the definition of being disabled, and B, also, have to meet these other criteria. And the owner, not the owner, but the bill that, or the Florida statute that covers this, 347, also goes into the fact that they've got to have a certified administrator. The administrator has to be, the person responsible. That feeds back into our ordinances, which basically say somebody's got to be responsible, as the rental person. So I'm trying to stay within our ordinances, but at the same time, say, look, we do have a process.
Well, and I'm saying, I think you accomplished your goal with points A and B, which is the spirit of what we're doing, without modifying or changing the culture that we have. And I would say, don't open your kimono. Let them go to the expense of the court battle in order to get you to add the exemption. You see what I'm saying? I think that the goal of this is to make it onerous. And why take away the onerosity, if that's a word? Make it so that they do have to force you to put in the exemption, if they want to go to that trouble. And the whole concept here is they don't want to go to that trouble. They don't want to go to the trouble of the 6-month window, because if we change anything, that opens up the 6-month concept as well, and we get to reduce that to 3 months. I say you let this go to court, and I don't give them the exemption until they force it legally. So anyway, that's just my opinion. Secondarily, to the attorney, I like the thing about the reports. My question is, adding the reports to it, does that violate our concept of changing our ordinance because of all the things you said?
Correct. The focus here is not to change any of your ordinances that exist that set up the regulations. It's to provide a mechanism for somebody with a disability, particularly certified recovery residents, representing those of their residents who have disability and will be staying in the home, that they need relief from certain of your regulations, and they would identify those regulations with specificity. It's not to impose additional regulations on them, because the courts have found providing additional requirements for people who are disabled that aren't required by anybody else is discriminatory. And so this process that we've laid out in this ordinance is that process where people can come forward and say, I have a disability, I need a reasonable accommodation, and you have an application process, what they need to include, and a review process, and the ability where it says in a few places what types of things would be considered and what would not.
So to that point, can we not say that today? There's nothing that I know of that is discriminatory if you as an individual come to me and say, I need a place to recover and I want to stay here. What we're talking about is density. If you come to me and say, yeah, but I want to bring 7 people in here that don't know each other. We're not being discriminatory to say anyone that's in a recovery scenario can't come and live in someone's house or even rent a house themselves and stay there. I think changing that to allow for the business that you keep talking about is the problem. And I think our long-term lease ordinance allows for the capability within the law that the law is requiring. I mean, I think that would be our case, is that we're not being discriminatory. The points A and B are true. We intend to comply with the law, and we do not intend to lower our stringent standards, which we clearly have outlined, and we welcome them to come and live in that space within the ordinance structure that we've had in place for decades. Which is, by the way, not so great for a business, but it's okay for a recovering person.
Vice Mayor Mayfield.
Yes, I was just going to make a motion to approve ordinance number 476-25 with the addition of notarized for the word certification on page 4, paragraph C11.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Before we do that, do we have any discussion? Mr.
We
Kurzman?
have, public comment.
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, Elizabeth, do you have any idea how much the insurance company pay for a person that's in a rehab?
I do not.
Am I correct, if anybody's done any research, does the word $50,000 a month? That's about what a lot of them will pay. That's what an insurance company will pay for somebody in a rehab. So when you think if they pay up to $50,000 a month, if I'm a single person and I don't have a family, what's to stop me from buying a house in this neighborhood for, let's say, $900,000? And if I'm charging $50,000 a month and I'm able to get 10 months' worth of a rental, and that's really all it is, that's more than half the money that pays for the house. The second year, I'm already in a profitable situation. And that's the part that really scares me when I think about it, because all you need is one person if they're paying this kind of money. Even if it was $25,000 a month an insurance company's paying, that's more money than you're going to get from any roommate you're going to have or renting your place. And once again, if you're a single person, or even if you're a couple, a married couple or an older couple, why not rent it out for that purpose to make that kind of money, especially if you're retired? Why wouldn't you say, this is my nephew that's in here, and you're collecting money from it? You get certified to basically be a counselor, and now you're bringing these people in, quote unquote, your relatives. What's to stop them from doing that? That's the part that, it goes back to the service dog theory that you
Well, what's your
see.
solution?
Put more teeth in this ordinance. There's got to be something else that we're missing. I just feel that it makes it too easy. We need something that has more.
I think but we can't add to our short-term stuff, or I don't think we should add to the short-term rental stuff. So the way they added teeth before was determined through research that the short-term rental thing was enforceable, whereas before when we had it, correct? And before when we had it, we didn't have that add. So they added that, and then I thought you added something else that was the proposed. So they did add what they could without changing our ordinances, which are other ordinances besides this one. So I think that's what they did. And then as for the insurance, are you talking about health insurance for people to go to recovery?
Yes.
I don't think they hand out a lot of health insurance my dad went to recovery and that was out of pocket. So the whole idea that it's easy to get insurance for addiction recovery, at least in my experience, was not available, even though he has health insurance.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not an easy moneymaker. It's a normal business in many ways.
There is a business here. But
yeah. Yeah, I know that there is some money being paid. That's.
That's why it was only my own experience.
Second, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, to Dave's, or Commissioner Kurzman's point, I don't think an insurance company is going to pay unless it's an accredited institution. And the Florida statute, now, and I read over it today, basically says these are the requirements for it to be accredited within the state of Florida and licensed. And they're supposed to be inspected annually and all that kind of stuff, and have an administrator, somebody who's responsible for it. And I understand, I mean, in what was presented this evening in terms of the changes, the applicant agrees to acquire and maintain a rental permit in accordance with Article 5, Rental 14-164, to ensure residents are long-term tenants. But as Mrs. Landry pointed out earlier, how do you enforce that? Well, you enforce it by saying, as our code now requires, you got to come in and you have to renew renew the lease on an annual basis, or at least the filing with the town. So they need to come in, file with the town, who are the residents. Anytime there's a change in residency, they should also notify the town, and they should also give us a breakdown in terms of what the average length of stay is, so that we know that the facility is within the parameters of our statutes. I can understand in what I passed out to you, getting rid of the exceptions, okay? I think that the one in terms of filing with the town, a list of all occupants, and anytime there's an addition or deletion that they've got to re-notify the town, makes sense. And the filing on the next one makes sense. Certified recovery centers, you know, are exempted from the provisions in section 14(1)A. Delete that. I don't have a problem with that. The first one in terms of exceptions to this section may be made to persons who comply with the definition of disabled. Fine, take that out. I do think that if we have a house that is occupied by people who are recovering from drug abuse or alcohol abuse and are heavy smokers, the likelihood of a fire hazard is a lot greater, and the dwelling should be sprinkled.
But isn't that the definition of putting more restriction, like, again, contrary to what this whole premise is, you're giving them more work to do when we're supposed to be giving them not more work to do. I'm not saying I don't understand your point, but that's like,
Well, I don't understand the point of giving them not more work to do. I mean,
Well,
this is simple. If
I'm
you're
not-
li-
listen,
if
I
you're
didn't make
if-
the
if
federal-
you're living next door to one of these places and you got 8 people back on the lanai that are smoking up a storm, and one of them happens to fall asleep in bed at night, and that happens. I had a good friend whose wife died in a fire because she fell asleep and the cigarette hit the mattress and up it went.
yeah, I believe you, I just,
All right, public comment? Chuck Farrell. You're up.
Thank you. Charles Farrell, Knoll subdivision. I've sat through 2 meetings regarding this topic. And I just want to point out that your obligation as commissioners is to safeguard the town of Sewell's Point and protect its current residents. And all I've heard tonight is talking about some people who might be coming into this town and granting them special exemptions and so forth. And we had an incident 3 years ago in this town, and we came very close to having one of these sober houses. And if it wasn't for the residents in India Lucy and Knoll subdivision, we would have it right now with all its attendant problems. Now, I appreciate what Bonnie did and what Elizabeth has brought up, but your job is to safeguard our town. And that means to maximize local control. And if that means adding additional language in this particular ordinance, 476-25, and whatever method you use, then that's what you need to do. And that's all I have to say. This could be a very serious problem in this small town. And you just need to maximize your responsibility. And not just haphazardly say, well, I second the motion. This requires a little more in-depth investigation and language. I want to just say one thing. In a trauma alert, there's a golden hour, 1 hour, to take care of a patient. Just 1 hour. You have the golden opportunity right now to make sure that you've done everything possible to save this town, and in the case of a physician, to save the patient's life or prevent them from having a permanent disability. That's how serious this is. This is not a joke. This is serious stuff. And in my opinion, this is more serious than anything you're doing down at South Sewell's Point. The tens of millions of dollars that you're paying down there, I said before when I came up here, means nothing if this situation starts taking hold in this town. And it's true what Commissioner Kurzman said. I can turn around and just decide to make a sober house in my residence and make a fortune. And I have a active medical license. I could probably do it. Now, what would that look like? And that's what you're facing. So if it requires some language or alteration or carrying it over to the next meeting, then by all means do it. No one's asking you to carry a gun and stand up on a parapet. Just do your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, is there anything else we can do? Before we take a vote?
I feel like we have looked at this, we've heard your concerns, we've done our best to go through and make sure that the regulations that protect Sewell's Point as a single-family residential community are called out with specifics and identified as being fundamental and unalterable through a reasonable accommodation. That's really important. There are other things that I hear. This does not change any of your other code sections. It offers people with a disability to request an accommodation from your codes other than those that have been specifically stated that cannot be changed. And it's not to say that any specific accommodation would be necessarily granted. It has to be requested in the specificity for the reasons, and all of those things have to be in place for it to
Now, right now, we're obligated by the state and by the federal government. Is that,
the
what if
state,
we don't do anything?
the state has obligated that you adopt an ordinance providing a process for accommodation. Technically, the timeframe was by January 1st, so we're a little bit late, but a little bit late is still better than not doing it. To say, no, we're not going to adopt something, I'm not sure what the repercussions would be.
Vice Mayor Mayfield.
Yes, I'm going to go back to the short-term. So the changes suggested on 14-165, those are our rental definitions. And if I remember previous conversations and this conversation correctly, we keep talking about if you start to mess with it, you kind of loosen the strength of that. Is that an accurate statement?
That is
Okay.
correct.
So besides just this, which I believe our short-term rental thing is helping with this cause that we have, often, as our mayor knows, the state wants to change your short-term rental rules for you. And this has been the leg we have stood on for years. Okay, well, we have that grandfathered in, thank God, because they run it by, they have all these, okay, you have to have short-term rentals. You want to talk about changing the character of the town as if all of a sudden our short-term rental is a month or less. You'll have Airbnbs left and right. So I think this ordinance of short-term rentals is important. You know, this is not ideal, but this is a great workaround. I don't want to mess with that because that is what so far has protected us, and hopefully should the state do something else, which they're always talking about trying to have more control, then this stays more ironclad if we don't mess with it. And I don't think anybody wants Airbnbs running rampant in Sewell's Point. So I just want to remember other parts besides just this ordinance.
Mr. Kurzman.
Yeah, one of the things, if I'm going to be opening one of these businesses, if I had that kind of mind, I'm going to take shortcuts in life and just come in and do something like this, open up one of these type of facilities, and I'm the owner and potentially of doing this, I'd read the ordinances first. I think any potential investor that would come into this town with that intention would read an ordinance book or have an attorney read it to make sure that there's no fight. You're always going to take the low-hanging fruit. So rather than going here, I'll go on to the next town, wherever that might be, because it's the low-hanging fruit. I don't have any aggravation, and it's not in the ordinance. Over here, if we at least put it in there, these extra things, I just think that I don't think they'll fight us. I think they'll go to the next town. Why are you looking for a fight when you could go and just get a lay down in the next position, which would be the next town, where you're just going to be granted whatever you want? You really want to get a fight, you're going to go into this town, and that's what they might be up against. And there's no guarantee we'll win, there's no guarantee we'll lose, but at least we have something in place. It's in writing, it's there. Whenever I looked into anything, if I'm going to do something or I have something that's going to be part of my lifestyle, I want to know what's allowed in the town, what's allowed where I'm going to build. If there's a place, am I allowed to build a basement or whatever it might be. You always want to see what's in an ordinance before you go out, and especially in a town like this where the homes start at 800,000 and for one of the smaller ranches, or you're looking millions of dollars elsewhere. Look, if you're going along the water. I just looking to at least put something there. I don't think anybody's going to move in and just to come in, and I just feel that having it in writing will scare them off, and I think they're just going to move on, and that's why I think we need to do something in writing, in an ordinance. It's going to make a difference.
Mr. Fendo.
So, you almost said it, I think, but I'm not sure what Dr. Farrell heard, but my understanding of what we're doing here is exactly that, and exactly what Dr. Farrell wants. We are putting and complying with the law requirement, putting an ordinance in place that makes them understand the stringent aspects of following through with their business, looking at the 6-month rental requirement, plus the, whatever process the town hall puts in place on reporting and enforcing the rental requirement, and then deciding, okay, this is going to be kind of a hassle in Sewell's Point. Maybe I'll move on to Port St. Lucie or wherever, go back to Delray Beach maybe. So I hope that's what you're hearing, Dr. Farrell, is that the conversation we're having here is to put enough teeth in our ordinance that will stand up to the scrutiny of a legal fight, if it should come to that, so that we would win and we would not have sober homes in our community. And I think that's what we're all trying to accomplish, and I hope it's clear that that's what this ordinance does and what it's doing, which is why I seconded the ordinance, and, well, I'll probably vote in favor of it, because I think it does what Commissioner Kurzman said at the beginning, which is we need to have something in writing in place that complies with the law, but also makes it onerously destructive for a business person to try to set up one of those sober homes in our community. I mean, I think that's what this does. There's a million loopholes, and maybe somebody will find a way through it, but I think it's more than one battle, and we should make the battle difficult for a person wanting to do that here.
Mr. Titigus.
Question for our town attorney. Making reporting requirements, do you consider that significantly weakens our current code?
So a couple things on that.
I'd like a yes or a no first, and then the explanation.
Why don't you let her explain?
But I can't do that. So this ordinance does not amend Chapter 14 in any way. It's not intended to, that's not the purpose of it. If you want to amend Chapter 14, that would be a separate ordinance that we would need to bring back. If you are wanting to add reporting requirements to Chapter 14, you need to add them to anybody who is operating under Chapter 14.
We have reporting requirements for Chapter 14.
Then they apply to everybody who would be renting their home.
We just need to make sure the processes in the town hall are adhering to that and making it so.
Well, there is a process in town hall. It's that when a rental changes, somebody has to come in or on an annual basis and say, here's the lease, here are the people in the house, okay? If you have a situation to where there is turnover, somebody is there for less than a year, how do we monitor that? And so, I believe that needs to be dealt with in some way, shape, or form. And my question to Elizabeth was that would this significantly weaken our code?
I'd have to look at that from a short-term rental standpoint, because the legislature has been very particular about if you're grandfathered in and the types of changes that in number and, extent to which you can make changes to those ordinances before they're not valid anymore. So I don't want to answer that off the cuff. I want to make sure that I have a very solid answer for you on that.
Well, I think sorry.
So, okay, and then the other point I wanted to make is that this law, Senate Bill 940, takes it out of this commission's hands. It puts it in the hands of an administrative review. Now, we have a lot of confidence in Mr. Daniels to make a good decision, but at some point in time, there's going to be another town manager, unless Mr. Daniels decides to, live to 900 like Methuselah, but I don't.
That's my choice.
Right, it's not your choice. The good Lord's going to make that choice. But there's going to be another town manager, there's going to be another commission, and if you have somebody that is sympathetic to this, and somebody comes in, an organization comes in and says, I want to plead the case, that I think I meet these criteria, that individual can make the exception, and you're screwed.
Maybe.
Vice Mayor Mayfield.
Yes. Yeah, I was just thinking about what you said, but I'm going to go to some of my other points. In the short-term rental definitions, Commissioner Titicus, under occupant lists and rental dwellings, it does say the owner and local responsible party shall maintain and produce upon request a list of authorized persons permitted to occupy the dwelling unit, and such list shall be made available and provided to the town manager immediately upon request for the purposes of any inspection or investigation conducted under the provisions of this article, which sounds pretty loose. Like, it sounds like the town has, I guess for certain reasons or whatever, I'm not the lawyer, but that doesn't sound in super favor of people that are renting the dwelling. It sounds in favor of the town, the way they have to produce a list upon request of who's in it if they're going to investigate. So I just wanted to point that out. And then to the point, Commissioner Kurzman, you were talking about putting more teeth in, and besides the other reason I said why I'm hesitant to do that, because I want to keep the short-term rental intact the way it's always been. If you start using the word certified recovery residence all over in your code, people are going to see that. In terms about low-hanging fruit, they say you might go elsewhere. Where also they might read it and be like, wow, this town's putting a lot of restrictions on certified recovery residences. I didn't think they were supposed to do that. How about I go let them know they're breaking the law? How about I try to go apply? And so it could have the opposite effect. Like, because we're not supposed to make things more difficult, if we go and make it difficult and we put it in our ordinances, it might call attention, and they're going to say, well, they're not allowed to do that, and then give us more issues. Whereas right now, it's kind of hopefully stays under the radar, and we have our other codes there to back it up, and we have a good process. So I actually think this is I think this is the best route. That's my opinion.
Mr. Fender.
Yeah, we got off topic, and now I had a point, but I've lost it, so what was the case you were making there a second ago?
I made 2 points. I wanted to know whether adding in a reporting would significantly weaken, okay? And then
So I
the
remember
second,
my point now, thank you.
what was
That
it?
helped a lot. I think this becomes an enforcement game, right? Where we're not drawing a lot of light to what we do and trying to dissuade in our ordinance, but the fact that the reporting requirement is there, that the town hall has processes it has to follow, and most times, I guess it's kind of loosey-goosey until all of a sudden Dr. Farrow stands up and says, this dude next door to me just set up a sober home. And then all of a sudden, poor chief now has a daily requirement to follow the letter of the law and enforce and make their life kind of miserable, right? I mean, you're trying to make it so that this is not the place where you really want to do this. And I think, as Commissioner Mayfield has said, this kind of does that. This kind of makes it like, do you really want to hassle with this here? And I believe that the 6 months, the long-term lease strategy is a pretty strong one.
I'm not challenging that.
I'm just trying to make you feel good.
I'm
I mean, because you seem
Buy me-
concerned.
Buy me lunch.
I'll do that.
I'm going to call the chief up.
Chief,
Thought you were going to get away with this, huh?
Mayor, you could take my license.
My question for you is enforcement of this ordinance. with the amount of police officers we have and the amount of rentals we have, and the possible, let's say, more of the sober homes, how can you enforce that?
Well, it depends on what's even brought any particular property to our attention. So let's just say right now, somebody is now parking on their front lawn, and we stop by the house to let them know you're only allowed to park in an area designated for parking, and that's when we find out, oh, we just moved in 2 weeks ago, we're renting the house. Okay, great. You know, we're going to check with the building department. Their admin is who takes care of the rental arrangements. Is there a permit? No. Okay, we're going to let them know, let the owner know you need to go ahead and apply for a permit and get this properly permitted. If the answer was, oh, we have some folks with a disability and that this is a recovery home, and we say, well, we don't have any paperwork on that, the same processes would happen, would make that referral back to the town hall. You need to get this properly permitted. If there are individual crimes that would occur by anyone living in any home, rental or not, we're going to address any sort of crimes or violation of the town ordinance, regardless of the circumstances in which someone's there. I will tell you, sitting in the back of the room, the thing that has caught my attention the most is what Commissioner Mayfield, or Vice Mayor Mayfield has brought up, which is, I've sat through a lot of commission meetings where all I hear is, don't touch your short-term rentals, because if you mess with that ordinance and it goes away. I agree that before we had that ordinance, we did have some, I don't even know if Airbnb existed then, but folks who were renting their place on weekly, monthly, those type of bases, those properties were a problem. And I mean, that was back when I was just an officer. And folks that really it's very difficult to deal with because they're going to be gone on Monday. So it's a little bit different circumstance. But even what you brought up with the 6-month rental, we've had that before. Someone comes in, says, I'm renting for 6 months. They're gone 4 months later. Well, not getting another permit until after the time period has gone by. And again, same as any other renter. What I'm really hearing from the attorney is the idea is you're like every other renter. So we would follow the same procedures we would with any other citizen, owner, non-owner, whatever that problem is, we would deal with those problems as they were an individual regardless of the circumstances.
So let me ask you this. I know that there's a way to find out if there are rentals in Sewell's Point, okay? I know that there are times when I pull something up and I see it's a rental, and I will tell Crystal and she will take care of it. But in the meantime, nobody knows about it.
Sure.
Because like you said once, if they don't get the bills there, then you don't know.
I've had circumstances before where sometimes I get bored, I'll be honest, and whether I'm at work, not at work, or whatever, and I'll pull up Airbnb myself and VRBO and that kind of thing, and I know some sneaky ways that folks kind of try to hide it. They may not list it as Sewell's Point. Sometimes you got to look at the map view instead, or I always remember Pam Walker coming to me one day going, "Can you identify this door? Because that's the only picture there." And I'm like, give me an hour. Now I'm like a woman on a mission. I'm going to find that door. So, sometimes there are those things. But there are folks, too, that are just regular citizens that decide they're going to leave the country for a year and rent their house out to somebody, and you're never going to know because they're never a problem. It's just people living there, and there's a lot of citizens that I've never had contact with them in 37 years because they're just living their lives, not, doing anything that would get our attention, so. But, do we have staff dedicated to specifically go out and look for something? What you're looking for in this instance, you're basically saying it's going to look like every other house here. As long as they're not parked on the front lawn, they didn't bring a boat to detox with them and park it in the driveway and that kind of stuff, it's not necessarily going to gather the eye of the police department.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I have a question for Chief.
Go ahead, Mr. Fender.
So I agree 100% with what you're saying, and I believe, as you said, I think what I understood you to say is that this really doesn't become a problem until it becomes an enforcement problem or until it raises your visibility. But you said something at the beginning that struck me, which was as soon as you have to start asking them questions, and you're like, do you have a permit for this? And they say, no, we just moved here. And you say, okay, file the permit. In this case, once it becomes a permit violation and there's 6 people living here or whatever it becomes that causes the permit break in the process flow of town hall, what's the next step after that? What is
Referral to the code enforcement board. Although, to be honest with you, generally, these are not code enforcement issues that the police department handles.
Yeah.
When we stumble across things we do, generally, the permit thing's pretty seamless, processed, again, through the building department.
I'm trying to think of the extent of the actual enforcement, where they're going to do what they do, they realize they should have a permit, they're still having sober home, they're not following the orders, they're trying to be cool.
That's what code enforcement's for.
Okay, so, I mean, we've had a few of these kinds of cases that weren't around sober homes, they were around tree issues and.
Exactly. Again, the key is everyone's being treated the same
So ultimately,
regardless.
there'll be a fine, and that fine will grow as.
Again, that's up to the code enforcement board. Sometimes they find people, sometimes they don't.
Understand
You know.
the downside, the negative side.
Yeah, that ultimately would end at the code enforcement board.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just difficult to enforce.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kurzman,
I'm good right now.
you're good? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I have a, Commissioner Mayfield, would you consider amending your motion and to include under application requirements, page 3, number 5, and I don't know if it's the same on both copies, but anyway, that in the case that the responsible party shall file with the town a list of all occupants and any time there is an addition or deletion. And also that the authorized agent of the certified must annually file a report, number of residents served, turnover rate, average length of stay.
Where are you looking? I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm following you. Where are you reading from? You're reading from something.
I think the ordinance,
Well,
I have it on the screen if you,
I'm,
Oh, I know, I have that, but I was, okay.
I'm saying, okay, the sheet that I passed out,
Oh, okay, I see.
okay?
I see.
The last paragraph, the next to the last paragraph, and if those are included in this ordinance as opposed to 14-165, that doesn't disturb our short-term rental ordinance, and it addresses itself to your concern that we don't want to weaken that, but yet at the same time, it puts more reporting requirements on whoever is considering applying to the town for a certified recovery residence.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that if the lawyers don't, because,
Oh,
although the last sentence I was reading, the chief of police will append any incidents reported to the police from the facility or facility. What is append?
Add to.
The chief of police will add.
So in other words, annually, when these people file or come back to file, and file this report, if there's been any problems that the police have encountered with the residents, then we want to know about it. It needs to go with the report. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not a legal person, but that sounds like you're kind of like keeping, I don't know, that sounds like a little, again, I don't know, but it's like, who has a tally of their wrongs going on in a municipality, you know?
he's checking the list, checking it twice. Got to find out
I
who's
mean,
naughty at night.
I'm not against like filing like just on the average number of residents stay, the turnover rate and the average length of stay. If that's okay with the lawyer, that sounds reasonable. I don't know about adding incidents. I feel like they keep track of that. I don't know, it just feels a little bit, because again, they should be treating everybody equally, so what is that really serving besides letting you know that
There's a whole different bear. And if that whole different bear has a different set of behaviors, we want to know about it.
right, but again, with the whole, you're supposed to be, I don't know. I'm just being honest. The first point seems reasonable because that's just like data. You know, the other one, I guess the other one could technically be called data too, but I would defer to what legal says. And if doing that, yeah.
I think what you may want to consider is, as part of your application, putting people on notice that you have a short-term rental prohibition, and so the minimum stay is required to be 180 days. And so to that end, you could, look at your application, including a certification that they won't have residents who stay longer. And I think that that has been added in, so they're aware that that restriction applies. The information that they're being requested to provide as part of the application is really focused on them, on the ability to meet the qualifications for claiming the disability, for receiving the accommodation. And you're not going to accommodate your short-term rental ordinance. So notifying them that it exists, that they have to comply with it, is really the important thing, not checking what their operations are, because their operations aren't important so long as they know they have to comply with your law.
Works for me.
How the hell do you know they're compliant unless they report it?
Same as with everybody else.
Yeah.
I disagree with you vehemently, Elizabeth. I mean, this is a situation where we have a right as a community, if somebody is coming in or establishing a business in the community, to ask and make sure that it is following our rules and regulations. And the only way you do that in this situation is to ask for the data. We want to see the data. Who's stayed there? What's the average length of stay? What's been the turnover rate? And have there been any police issues that have taken place? Now, the chief prepares a report. She submits it periodically to this organization, to the commission here. All we're saying is cull that out and include it to their application and append it so that somebody can take a look at it.
Mr. Fender.
So, we've talked about a lot of stuff, and I agree in some ways that we don't want to make the wrong decision hastily. It sounds like this 6-month lease, what's the name of our ordinance?
I don't know, short-term rental.
Short-term rental ordinance protects us here, but it does make sense that the reporting capabilities of that allow us to enforce, and you articulated it very well, Elizabeth. I wonder if it makes sense, even though we are a little bit late on this, to not rush to judgment and maybe take it back one more time and put the wording you just described in to make sure that we are able to get the reporting data we need to give to make sure that the Code Enforcement Board can follow up with enforcement as needed. I know I seconded your motion. I
Right.
don't want to
Aye.
unsecond it without offending you, but
No, I
willing
don't.
to let 1-2 more weeks go by?
Well, we're already behind, and again, just on a logical level, not an emotional level, these restrictions to me start to be the opposite of what we're trying to do. I don't, you know what I mean? So
Well-
this idea that now if you are the certified recovery resident, so you have to be keeping track of everything.
Well, my point is,
And also, wait, my other point is, I would rather leave this the way it is, and then you add, because you're talking about businesses again, when I've been told that this is about the residents and treating residents who are living somewhere, but now you're talking about it's a business. So what if we did something somewhere else, wherever we talk about businesses, but not on this?
If you go and look at the Florida statute, Commissioner Mayfield, that deals with this, you're going to see that basically they're saying it's a business. I mean, it has to be accredited. It has to have a chief
that they
operating
are
officer, it has to have a chief financial
I'm being
officer.
told to look at it in the context of a residence. I'm not being told to, and so I do agree with you, but I'm trying to stay on track for this ordinance. So that's why I'm suggesting maybe, because we must have something that addresses businesses. There, sorry. I didn't have my light on, I apologize.
So on page 6 of the ordinance, in the new language that states applicant agrees to acquire and maintain a rental permit in accordance with section 14164, you could change that to be,
This is item K?
it will be item K, yes. And you could change that to a certification, that they, as part of their application, they certify to comply with the requirements of your short-term rental ordinances.
Well, that's my point. Can you do that here on this motion, or
Yes.
can you take it back? And
Either way.
Wait, will you say that again? Because I thought it was there under L.
Yeah, so K is being deleted. So
Right.
this would be K.
Oh.
And just, instead of just saying that applicant agrees, you could make it that it be a certification, that
Okay,
they
okay.
will do that.
Okay, I like that. A notarized certification?
Yes.
Okay.
so page 6, item K, changes.
What's going to be K right now? It looks like L in the packet we
K is
got.
currently stricken,
Yes.
and a new K comes in.
I think you're looking at the
Am I looking at the wrong?
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong one. Look at the one that got,
one that was on the dais today.
The one that was passed out.
Got yellow.
so, I mean, well, I see other lights on, but I would modify my motion to what town council suggested. If that's to the liking of my seconder or whoever else would like to second.
And we could move that, we could move it to be number 15 under, on page 4, that would, so it would be an application requirement instead of.
Say that again, sorry, I was thinking of something while you were
Sorry,
talking.
yes,
Say that
so
again.
in addition to changing it to a certification, moving it to be new number 15 on page 4.
Okay.
So it's an application requirement.
Okay, I like that better. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I would amend my motion to approve ordinance number, something 25, what is it?
47625.
47625, with the modifications of page, I'm sorry, I won't say page, but the modifications of, I guess it is,
Page 4.
Section 82, 243, 1, 511, add the word notarized before certification, and in that same section, add a 15 that would read applicant agrees to acquire and maintain a notarized,
It would also be a notarized certification signed by the applicant stating that they certify they will acquire, maintain, and comply with the rental permitting requirements in section 14164 and 14163.
what she said as number 15. That's my new motion.
Okay. We have a new motion. Do we have a second?
It's complex enough for me to want to actually see it in writing, to vote on it.
Okay. Do we want to table it?
I'm just saying, I think it's healthy, but, I mean, is there?
Until we can put these changes in?
So you're not willing to entertain any reporting requirements by this entity?
Well,
I would entertain them in a separate
Under-
section. Again, I don't know if Elizabeth actually touched on that, but actually requiring that somebody files a report.
I'm not saying
Oh.
include it into our short-term rental ordinance. I'm
Right, but
saying
you want to include it
in-
for the one
in-
we were talking about tonight.
Yeah, the one that we're talking
Right.
about, Certified Recovery
I'm saying
Center.
2 weeks gives us time to bring it back in a calm manner and show the reporting requirements at the same time of the new ordinance.
Okay.
And put them together in a way.
I just want to, because I'm not sitting here so worrying about a report. I just wanted to know, does that mess with the whole premise of,
Yeah, we don't want to lose
It
that
does.
ordinance.
Well, it also,
How
if you're.
does it do?
no, not the short-term one,
Not the
mess with the
short-term rental.
premise of the fact that you're
Yes.
giving them more restrictions when the whole point is to
Correct.
treat them equally.
Correct. So the point of this reasonable accommodation is to put a disabled person on the same footing as everyone else. And you're not requiring anybody else to do reporting. You're saying, because you came to me and said you're disabled and you want this accommodation, now you have to report to me every year.
But
or-
you just read, we do require reporting.
No, but that's under our short-term rental already, and that's just
And they
a
will have
list
to
of
do that.
people. It doesn't have to give you the turnover in your
And they'll have to
police
do that
incidents.
regardless, and that's
Yes.
part of that certification we just added, that they've agreed that they've read it, they're going to comply with your short-term rental
And does it
requirements.
not meet your requirement?
No.
Why not?
Elizabeth, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Under the Florida statute, and maybe Mrs. Landry knows, under a Florida statute, that deals with this, which is force, yeah. I don't have the number in front of me, I can't find it. But anyway, the 397, Florida statute 397, that deals with certified recovery residences. There are a list of things that the state requires. Okay. What reports do they have to file with the state of Florida?
I don't know.
And can we not require that the same reports get filed with the town of Sewell's Point, or at least a portion of those?
If you are creating a code that regulates recovery residences, as
What does this do?
this
The code you-
provides an accommodation for someone who wants to live in a home operating as a recovery residence.
The individual living in the home is not the applicant. The business is the applicant.
I understand that, but the people who are living there, who have the disability, are the people you are accommodating. And so you can't discriminate against the application because it is discriminatory against the disabled person.
How is it
And by-
discriminatory if you say to a business that comes to your town, here's information you must file with the state of Florida, I want the same information?
I would say it's not, but that's not what you're proposing to do. What you're proposing to do is add it to an application for a reasonable accommodation for a disability. That is not a requirement that anybody else would be required to fulfill for operating a business or renting their home.
The people that are renting their home are required to fill out an application, they're required to do reporting, you know.
And they would, the language that's in here would require the same reporting under your short-term rental ordinance for a recovery residence as it would for anybody else who is renting their home in town. It would not require additional reporting.
I don't see where, you know, you're splitting hairs on me. I just don't see where
Mayor?
asking for what the state of Florida gets.
Mr. Kurzman,
Yes, can we do a separate ordinance for a business that won't affect our short-term ordinance? Just a separate business ordinance that we could ask for this stuff?
We can certainly look into that. I have been told that there is additional legislation moving forward this year regarding recovery residences. And I have been told in relation to other jurisdictions that we represent to hold off on putting forth other regulations to see what the legislature does and whether your regulations would be more or less restrictive than what the legislature is going to put forward. But there are other things you can do, and we can certainly work with you to do that after this first step.
It's sort of like I understand both sides on
Yeah.
this, and like I say, I'm Frank's side on this 100%. But the problem is, at the other end, I don't want to lose the 6 months, because I remember when now Mayor Burrill at the time fought to get this in, that we could eliminate the Airbnbs and everything when he was a commissioner during round one. And today, we're fortunate that he made that decision, and that's why we were grandfathered in. Otherwise, we'd be subject to Airbnbs right now. And that's just as bad, because I had a guy on my front lawn passed out that was Airbnb'd from my ex-neighbor across the street, and he was sitting there just getting sick all over my front lawn. I had to walk him back to his house, and it was supposedly, quote-unquote, her friend, and it wasn't her friend, and he came clean with me. And that's how we know these things are happening over a period of time. And that's another disaster in itself, is the Airbnbs. So I don't want to destroy the 6-month, but I do want to put something in for business, if we could look into that. I think that might be another way to do it without destroying the 6-month. And we could have a stricter business code in the residential part of town, and which would not affect the commercial districts, and maybe we could just really tighten the screws there if that's possible.
Vice Mayor?
Commissioner Fender, you were my seconder. I believe I think I made a motion. It must have died because I don't think anybody seconded it. So are you, because I'm comfortable approving it now. If we can wait and it's not that big a deal, that's fine. So are you basically, are we tabling this? Are we, and I'm for looking at other ways to address this issue, but I think this ordinance is good the way it is, and I think we've kind of talked about it a lot. I don't think much will change before the next one, but if that's what you need, then I get it.
Well, this ordinance may stay the way it is, but what we're looking into, are there different ways to take care of the issue at hand?
Right,
Which
but we
is-
could do this one and then the other one at another meeting. So I'm asking Commissioner Fender, because he was the one who said I needed more time, so I'm,
Yeah, I don't think any harm can come of allowing intelligent people to continue to bang on this issue for another couple of weeks. It's a complex issue. I think the goal we have is pretty clear. We're trying to protect our town, and, I mean, I like what's here, but I don't have the hubris to say that I can't see the loopholes in it. So I'm for allowing it to come back, because I wasn't expecting the clarity that came back this time when we sent it back. And so I'm pretty happy with the creative ideas that have come forward today. I'm hoping that in 2 weeks, we're going to come back with a second report that's going to come up with something. Somebody found case law in another jurisdiction that protects us in some way. I like the reporting concept, and I like the idea that we're not impacting our existing short-term rental agreement. So I'm kind of in favor of just letting it sit with smart people for another 2 weeks. That's just kind of, I don't understand the need to rush. And,
well, it was supposed to be done by January 1st, so that's why I would ask.
but it wasn't, and I don't think
Right.
they're going to come get us.
That's why I'm asking people, like I said, I'm comfortable with
I'm
it,
not
so
going to ask
I,
Minnesotan, but yeah, I
Right.
think we're okay.
so is that putting it off 2 weeks? I guess there's no real way to tell, and so there you go. I will, obviously, if nobody else
way
is going to
that
approve it, I
things-
can't do it alone, so.
Well, you're not doing it alone. I totally am super happy with the effort you're putting forward, but
No, I'm open to talking about how to attack this from another angle, but I wouldn't see,
I don't
unless they
think it's
have
gonna be
tricks
much
up their
of a-
sleeves that I wasn't aware about, I imagine, and you guys would know better, I don't think it'll come back with much changes besides what we just said.
I'm okay
That's
with
what- yeah.
that too.
Okay,
right?
that's fine.
But there has been some new concepts introduced today that need to be digested into what we have, and if that digestion means no change, I'm okay with that, but
You
I
said the
feel
new-
like,
Yeah, you said the new, I mean, the things, I've already, meaning, if it's, I've already, I don't want any more restrictions. I think they have exhausted what we could do for what I believe the intent of this ordinance is.
and after a
So-
good night's sleep, I think they'll come back and tell me that.
All right, I mean.
That's
like I said,
all
I
I'm
can't
saying.
approve-
I mean, I don't know what I don't know is really my problem.
Okay.
And I really want the town to feel like we're giving it due diligence as well, right? I mean, there's no real urgency to get this wrong. I think that we could take 2 weeks to get it right, or as right as it can be.
All right, this is the last one.
The last one,
The last one.
I'd like to know what Jupiter Island has passed as an ordinance.
Yeah, me too. I think I'll set up a house there.
I will send it around to you all.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion.
That dies. because I amended it
and
and
it
nobody
died
seconded
for a
it.
lack of a second.
I'm nurturing it. I just haven't seconded it yet. It's just going to take me a little while.
We had a motion, it was seconded. We had a amendment to the
Yeah.
motion,
Right.
that died.
That
The
died.
amendment died. So the motion, the original motion then still stands.
Oh, does it? Well, then
Well,
I
what if I
retract it or
rescind my
whatever,
second
because that
to the
one's not
original
gonna,
motion?
whatever I do, I
sorry,
guess I retract it.
Can't hear both of you at the same
Oh,
time.
you retract.
You tried.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's done.
So would a motion?
motion to continue?
table-
Oh.
We have a motion to table?
I'll be
Well,
happy
not to
someone
table,
else.
but to
That's not
continue
what
it
I
to
do.
the next meeting?
I'll make
Okay.
that motion.
Is that the proper one?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're okay.
You made the motion?
Because
to
this
like-
is the,
continue?
since this is a public hearing, to continue it to the next, then you don't have to re-advertise and,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this conversation at our next immediate meeting.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a
wait,
second?
wait, when is that? We need to put it on the record,
The
date and time.
10th of February,
February.
Okay.
Okay. At 6
6
PM?
PM.
Okay, 6 PM, let's do that.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? None? Hearing none? We'll call the roll.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Okay.
Vice Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Burrell?
Yes.
Motion pass.
Okay. Okay, there are no resolutions, so we can continue on that. There's no old business.
Nice work.
There is no new business. Is there any discussion on any item? It's not on the agenda. I don't see any, so that's done. So let's have some closing comments. Keep them to the minimum, please.
Can I start?
Yeah.
Let's go with staff first.
Thank you. Just to let everyone know, I think I've tried to get everything out, but I am going to be hopefully visiting my son abroad, and if the aircraft are still flying and everything else, so I'm scheduled to leave Thursday. I'm planning on taking tomorrow off because I have to prepare and do all the other stuff, and I will be back the following Friday in town. I don't know if I'm going to be in shape with jet lag or whatever to be here on that Friday, but so if you need to get a hold of me, you can still call me. It'll be a time difference, but I don't care if you wake me up. If it's important enough that you need to reach out to me, reach out to me. In my absence, we'll have the chief sitting in, and when she's not available, it'll be Jack. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Oh, please, keep them minimum. I'm begging you.
Yeah. Is that me? Yes, it is. Yes, this, I'll say the shorter one first. I went to a Rivers Coalition meeting a couple weeks ago. I hadn't ever been to one, even though I've always supported them, but I was happy to go. We learned a lot. Anyways, they had government updating Martin County and Stewart on some of the initiatives they have done. And so I thought of Sewell's Point because we are doing initiatives that help the river. So I asked the town manager if he would, and I asked the Rivers Coalition, and they're like, yeah, get on the agenda. So I asked the town manager if he would speak, and he said he would. So that is the next February 26th or something, just to let you know that we're sharing our hard work and achievements with, if that's okay with you guys. I think it's a good idea. And then on the commission connection that came out, I read it. It gives good information. I went through the whole thing, and I appreciate that effort. And then I did see it said that phase 3 was March ending date, and I thought it was February.
Well, February is the substantial completion, and then going back and adding sod and doing other
Okay.
things, but, the road
Will
will
be
be
open?
open.
Okay,
Road should be open within the next 3 weeks.
perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Fender.
They are going crazy on Oakwood Drive. I mean, I've never seen the kind of construction going on there that I've, in 22 years. So thanks for whoever's doing all the good work, but hope it gets done. Did you said phase 3 is getting done in Marchish? Does that mean phase 2 is getting done in June?
It's supposed to be
Part
done
phase 2.
in
Is that even possible?
June 1st. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
And I
All
believe
of that
it's
has to
part-
be
It's like
done.
half part of Phase 2?
Yeah, it's the southern half, which is the FDEP area.
And how is
And then-
the other half?
The other half is HMGP, and we've, made some progress with it, with the agreement and the evaluation. So it looks like if we can get the Homeland Security Secretary to sign off on it, which is, apparently it's going to her desk, and I'll be dealing with Congressman Mast's office again and seeing if we can bring that to light and maybe take it off the bottom of the list and put us on the top. But if that happens, we'll be proceeding with going through the bidding process. And I know in March, we're talking about going through the bid documents and making sure that, they
May, June.
meet the criteria. And then hopefully, once we finish the projects in June, we can start in July with that last missing phase of Phase 2
I'm
resiliency.
more worried about losing the grants we have.
Right, that's why all those have to be done by June 1st.
June
June
1st, not
30th.
June 30th.
Well, June 30th is when we have to have the cutoff, but, you have substantial completion and you have final completion. The final completion's supposed to be June 15th. And that way, if there is odds and ends that we have to get done, we can get it done before the cutoff date.
That's smart.
But if I tell everybody June 30th,
Right.
they're gonna come in July and we've missed the boat.
Okay, all right. I
And
mean,
every day I've been on
seems
top
highly
of them.
aggressive right now to me, for some reason.
Well, you just don't have much work they're doing.
7 days
Yeah,
a week.
they're working a lot.
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm about to be tarred and feathered because every other street just has a few pipes coming out, but Oakwood is cut up, it's got 15 million pipes out of every which way. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, if you remember, we
It's
had
good, by the way.
some issues with Phase 2 with going ahead and not having a new STA. Originally, we had worked with Henry Sewell's Meadows Homeowners Association, and they reneged after, voting that we could utilize their retention area as an STA.
Seems like that directional boring machine's very accurate, and it could go right under my house, right into that pond in the backyard. Nobody'd ever even know. So I'm
But-
just saying.
So there's extra, storage of water in the streets. So, and that's what we're doing, and exfiltration trenches.
I'm afraid it's going to get worse for me before better when they start tearing up that street. I'm just saying. Because I've already seen them cut the lines, cut the cracks. So. I know, I'm happy about it, but I also want to be alive after the end of it. So. Be nice to me, Joe.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Adjourn.
Bro.
Already.